Minor story spoilers for this one, with major story spoilers and discussions of sexual content ahead. You'll get a heads up when it's time to skip forward if you wish. Oh hell yeah, Tsukihime! I love Arcade! I play Arc in Melty Blood. I also play Arc in Melty Blood! It now has a free browser release that makes the game easily playable on both computer and mobile, and it comes with some very nice features. Modern functionality like skipping pre-read chapters, the choice of 3 soundtracks, with the ability to turn on warnings before H-scenes. This is a beautiful release, and I, having played it on my phone, am really impressed with how well this package was put together on mobile. A couple years ago, I played Clannad, one of what I would consider the early big 3 VNs in North America, so I'm about to make my mark on number 2. Sure, Clannad was fucking dire, but Tsukihime I have a moderate expectation for. I love Melty Blood, and I can't wait to see the fuller picture behind characters I've been around for years now. Not only that, but I've had people tell me that the series author Nasu is a great writer, so I jumped into Tsukihime with legitimate excitement. And it's fucking awful. Now, we're gonna get this out of the way up front. I only played Arcwid's routes. Arc and CL are the 2 major routes, and there are 3 minor routes for Akiha, Hisui, and Kohaku. This was one of the last things I played this year, so I didn't have the time to play everything, but doing one of the major routes with the cover girl of the game gave me enough confidence to say that Tsukihime is one of the most dog shit piles of garbage I've ever played/read. Let's get the good out of the way first. Nothing. Okay, let's take this shit to the cleaners. Okay, let me back up. I actually do like the art a lot. Sure, some of the characters have very strangely structured arms, but for the most part, the character art is very charming and offers a perfect range of emotions that fit the quirks of the cast. When Arc looks confused and exasperated, I believe it, because I'm also confused and exasperated. There's no way around it. The writing is crap. Now, I am saying that with the translation in mind. I've heard that this isn't the greatest translation, and I gave the game a long leash in that regard. Like, there were some times that I could sense a line was structured like a Japanese line and just directly brought over without a whole lot of cleanup behind it. That's fine. That doesn't bother me, nor am I gonna mark a game for it. What chaps my fucking hide are like the big swings, the story, the characters, the prose, or more importantly, the lack thereof. I found Tsukihime to be a boring, frustrating, and very unenjoyable read. The narratorial lens of Tonoshiki as your main character fucking blows. He's not a character that's fun to be stuck in the head of, and there's multiple reasons for this. The first of which is most important. Shiki is a disgusting scumbag shit-stained motherfucker. This dude sucks. It sucks to be him, and it sucks to be around him. He's rude, callous, nagging, stupid, doesn't pay attention, doesn't treat other people with any worthwhile manner, doesn't listen, and in general, his greatest contribution is being able to produce carbon dioxide. That in and of itself isn't bad. What's bad is how it happens without comment nor reflection. Shiki's unbelievable dunderheadedness is presented as acceptable, not some character flaw that he should learn to grow through. It's not like Shiki is some dredge who's going on a journey to learn how to mind his fucking manners for once. No, see, that would be an interesting character arc in a good story, which this is not. No one really calls attention to the fact that Shiki is a dickhead. He just is one, and everyone around him kind of goes, "That's our Shiki, a normal, well-adjusted person." You want someone to go upside this dude's head and tell him to stop being such a fucking pecker, but no part of the story ever looks at Shiki's personality and says, "This is bad. Please fix yourself." The other part of it sucking to be Shiki is that he couldn't describe his way out of a paper bag. Shiki only ever describes what is going on in front of him in plain detail. Sure, we get some musings on his past and ruminations on the events of the story, but Shiki is physically unable to set the scene around him. I understand that this is a visual novel, and so there is a visual aspect at play that helps alleviate the writing of constantly dressing the sets. But so much of Shiki's observations are checklists for what he's doing in that moment. There is an emptiness to the prose that permeates the whole game. For example, there's a day Arc visits Shiki at school and they talk, and eventually he tells her she needs to go home and rest because she's still injured. And he's right, because she assumedly still is, but like, can I get a temperature check on it? Can you notice she's walking stiff? Can you notice she's favoring one side? Can you notice that during conversation, her arm stays tucked to where her abdomen was injured? This sounds banal, but I need this clarification because I can't tell if Shiki actually believes Arc is injured and wants her to rest, or if he's just saying so because Arc is annoying him and he wants her out of his hair. Like, given the personalities at play, either way to read it could be viable. It was getting to the point where I thought this might be intentional. For those unaware, the basic premise of Tsukihime is that Shiki survives a near-death accident in his youth, and it awakens the ability to see the death of everything around him in the form of black lines. Tracing these lines that only he can see causes that object to die. This power, known as Mystic Eyes of Death Perception, can't even lie, that's hard as fuck, I love it, would drive Shiki mad if he didn't have special glasses given to him by Jumpsy Laser Sword F.A.Yoko. Obviously, Shiki has a problem with his perception, trying not to see what he sees for his own sanity. There was so little descriptive narration coming from Shiki that I thought, maybe he has dulled his perception overall. Maybe the madness of being able to perceive death of all objects around him, being able to effortlessly interact with that death as well, has stunted Shiki's ability to perceive in general. I genuinely thought this was a plot point, that Shiki has numbed himself so far in fear of what laid on the other side of those glasses. I am begging Shiki to describe the world around him. When he goes to the park at night to meet Arc, I am screaming at him to wax just a little bit upon what it must be like. This park, emptied by the collective fear of the vampire murders, must have something worth talking about. Describe the stillness of a place normally seen active being reduced to a location so empty you would wonder if anyone would ever come back. Describe the terror that travels through the community and how the weight of it can be felt in all this nothingness. Describe the crispness of an air that only you are breathing. Describe fucking something! Give me a reason to feel like I am in the world around you. When Shiki is forced to converse with people, it doesn't fare much better. Early on when Shiki is talking to his classmates, it's not bad. But once Arc shows up and the story gets mystical, there becomes a large amount of conversations that are just one-sided exposition dumps. Again, that's not bad in and of itself. The story has a lot of hay it needs to bale about the world of vampires, so exposition to a numbskull is to be expected. Final Fantasy X came out a year after Tsukihime, and it was all about that wave too. The problem is that they feel like they should be conversations, but Shiki sucks ass and usually comes off as more interested in seeing how many rocks he can stuff into his mouth while someone's talking to him. He doesn't come off as inquisitive or interested in this new world of vampirism he is thrust into. It's instead feeling like exposition because we gotta get this information to the person on the other side of the screen at some point. And there's a lot of that feeling across the plot. Multiple things just sorta happen to kickstart plot points, and they feel awkwardly forced. Without spoiling the plot, there is a section where the story needs Shiki to be at his school at night. And so the solution is to have a teacher, rightfully because he's been missing school days, ask Shiki to stay late. Shiki then goes to the room and waits for the teacher for an hour because the teacher never shows up. That's it! Now Shiki's at school at night, and when you're done reading that, it comes off as such a thinly veiled way of writing Shiki to be there because the story needed him to be there. It sticks out like a sore thumb, it's so obvious. Okay, I'm about to get into major story spoilers, which also means discussing some really heinous sexual assault. For both spoiler reasons and content warning reasons, please skip to this time to avoid all of that. So, if you can believe it, I've actually had my kid gloves on when I was saying that Shiki's a piece of shit. This dude is easily the worst main character I've ever played as because he's capable of just being the most vile motherfucker. And I do think the story has a point to make with that, but it's a point that it misses by a country mile. Shiki and Arcwade have this dichotomy going on where they see each other as a monster. Shiki looks at Arc and sees an 800-year-old vampire with mystical powers, and to him, that's an inhuman monster. Arc looks at Shiki and sees a human with mystical powers to see all the death in the world who flew into a bloodlust and literally chopped her into multiple pieces, and to her, that's an inhuman monster. The interplay is that Arc is a monster who is slowly becoming more human, and Shiki is a human slowly becoming a monster. The problem is that Shiki is a much worse monster than the theming kinda intended. I can't impress enough how embarrassing it is to read Shiki and Arc's interactions because Shiki treats Arc like dirt. He is constantly annoyed with her, calls her an idiot every chance he gets, and is overall just really disrespectful for no good reason. Like, there's a scene where they go to a burger joint and Shiki chides Arc for how she eats, telling her it's unbecoming to see her eat like that and she should just have some of his fries instead. And Arc's like, what the fuck, man? I'm just trying to eat a burgie. Let me live. This isn't subtle. It gets to the point where, and this is a direct quote, Arc says, I don't ignore you. If I answer and you scold me, you just call me an idiot, so I stay quiet. These two are supposed to fall in love! Yet Arc is out here in the fucking text, sounding like an abused housewife in a broken, loveless marriage. Here's more direct text of Shiki being a fucking dickhead to Arc. Please, Arcwade, get straight now. It's true that you're selfish, that you don't listen to other people, and that you're full of problems. But other than that, you're pretty normal. You're not broken. You're just like a normal girl. So smile. If you keep making that expression, it'll make me feel bad. And again, the text acknowledges that Shiki's a dickhead because Arc's response is, that's pretty mean. Am I really that selfish? Ah, my God, Shiki, you couldn't be more of a worse person if you tried. And you fucking tried. Last chance to skip ahead because we're about to talk about some really bad sexual assault stuff. All the H scenes in Arc's route have dubious levels of consent to them, the first of which is the funniest and maybe the best plot beat in the entire story. I understand that's a really weird sell off the back of that first statement. One night, after helping Arc defeat a vampire, Shiki is in his bedroom when Arc flies in through the window, uses mystical powers to bind Shiki, and, as vampires are ought to do, sucks out his life essence through his penis. The next day, Shiki finds Arc and asks, hey Arc, what the fuck was that all about? And Arc explains that she sent him a succubus familiar as a way of saying thanks, telling Shiki that the familiar takes the form of the one he desires the most. Because they are kind of talking past each other about the same thing, Shiki reveals that the familiar showed up looking like Arc, and bam! Our leads now have a spark between them. Sure, this falls flat because Shiki keeps treating her like she unironically belongs in the kitchen, unironically making him a sandwich, but as a plot point, this is the best part of Arc's route. It has a very interesting setup that leads to a rewarding payoff for the plot, and how the romance of our characters gets brought up. The other H scenes? Please be aware I'm only talking about these because of how much narrative weight they hold. I don't like this. The second H scene comes off the back of Shiki trying to help Arc and discovering her in a back alley, wildly fighting off corrupted minions of an evil vampire. While Arc is able to dispatch them, something about this triggers a similar bloodlust in Shiki. But unlike the first time where this madness caused Shiki to chop Arc to pieces, this time it's a lot less blood and a lot more lust. While Shiki's eventually able to snap back before things go too far, the most deflating part of this is that Arc is the one who apologizes. She says that while she was fighting, she was using her own mystic eyes, and Shiki must have become captive to their thrall, causing him to assault her. This totally fucking sucks. And not just because it's the woman apologizing after being sexually assaulted, like goddamn fucking come on now, but it completely undercuts the theme. It would be a vastly more interesting story if Shiki was indeed susceptible to this crazed bloodlust that turned him into an uncontrollable, maiming and molesting force. There would be more to reckon with in regards to him being the monster that Arc says he is, because he would be. It would fit the theming so perfectly if the person Shiki sees as the monster is more human than him, because even if he thinks of himself as a human, he's the monster out of the two of them. But no, it's actually just Arc's fault because she had the mystic eyes have turned you into a rapist on while fighting. Oops, damn, I guess there's a reason we have the safety lock on those things. The final scene is the most appalling, but sadly the most important. After a bevy of adventures together, Shiki and Arc admit their feelings for each other, followed by Arc inviting Shiki back to her apartment. The vibes are kind of off immediately because Shiki, I love this so much, describes Arc undressing, and I quote, as naturally as if she was taking off her hat. This is like the line for me. I would frame this shit. Like, that's it? That's all we're gonna say about seeing your female lead undress. As naturally as taking off the hat she's so known for wearing. The iconic hat that cosplayers have fashioned their own versions of for decades now. That's That's it! We're not gonna add any more sizzle to the steak on this one? Not gonna expand the scene a little before our romantic leads share their first meeting of passion? Oh my god, this fucking writing. This is what I play this shit for. I could easily chalk this up to being a sneaky translation, but there's nothing else said about this, so I can only assume that the original text mentioned her undressing with just as little detail. And then it becomes painfully obvious. Hey, if Shiki is constantly rude and uncaring to Ark, why would that stop during sex? Of course there's no dreamy allure to the prelude of their night together, because Shiki makes it a stomach-churning nightmare. I must clearly declare this. I don't find this scene reprehensible because consent is again dubious. Erotic fiction is a safe place for people to explore fetishes, and I'm no puritanical pearl clutcher. Just because I may or may not like something doesn't mean it shouldn't exist. No, what I find reprehensible is that the story has, maybe unknowingly, been building to this all along. This isn't some one-off scene in an H-dojin. This is the climax of Shiki's character. He spent all this time being so disrespectful to Ark, and now she is here with him in her most vulnerable states, and he treats her like an object. There's no room for mistranslation. The text says she is reduced to tears, and the artwork confirms it. And the story treats this as cool and good. The night ends, the story continues, and much like every other time Shiki has been an offensively misogynistic asshole, there's no reflection on it. The story never frames his actions as bad, never asks Shiki to look inward. Its silence tells you everything you need to know. It sees Shiki's actions as normal. It would be one thing if these were throwaway scenes to check the necessary eroge boxes, but they fit his established character too well. I always thought people said to skip the H scenes in Tsukihime because they were poorly written erotic fiction, and they are, don't get it twisted. But maybe the reason is because you shouldn't hate the main character this much. Fuck this guy. Roa is supposed to be the villain of Tsukihime, but I have nowhere near as many reasons to hate him as I do this fucker right here. In my Clannad review, I said that it broke me, playing off the idea that it emotionally broke people, but for me, it broke my preconceived notions of the genre. I was around during the cultural rise of those big 3 yens in North America, and for how popular they were among the weeaboo masses stateside, they were titanic in Japan. Tsukihime is a cultural juggernaut. It launched Type Moot into the stratosphere, and there's a reason that over 20 years later, I'm playing a new fighting game with these characters in it. This resonated with people, and after finishing Arkwed's route, the only thing I could think is, why? Why would someone read this, the route with the main heroine, and start clicking their heels as they dive into the rest of the game? There's no way our standards were this low. This shit came out in 2000. I thought I was reading the first work of some edgy teenager, but Natsu was fucking 27 years old when this shit came out. Everyone who told me this guy was a good writer needs to march to my house and apologize in person. Even if you take the rampant misogyny out of this route, which is like taking everything out of your soup but the parsley and crackers, it's still a poorly written story that has a small handful of cool ideas that mostly squanders anything it has going for it. And do you know how I know that? Because a couple years ago, I read the Tsukihime manga adaptation. This manga fucking rips. I loved this. Back in my first Gaming in the Current Year video, I almost talked about it during the intermission alongside Molester Man because both of those were the manga I read to cleanse my palate after Clannad. This adaptation, assumedly unlike the anime adaptation, which apparently is so bad everyone just agrees to memory hole it, completely fixes Tsukihime by fixing the weight-bearing issue. Shiki. Shiki is no longer a torrent of shitbag behavior. He's someone with kindness and empathy, someone you can get behind and cheer for. You understand why people would endear themselves to him because he comes off as reliable and trustworthy, someone who doesn't go back on his word and works his hardest to see things through properly. But also, it makes Shiki much worse, and that's a good thing. Shiki's mental state is so much more contested. He is constantly gripped by madness, and it properly paints him in a different light. In Ark's route in the VN, Shiki is attacked by madness like twice, both of which are the assaults on Ark. In the manga, his mental battle with reality happens much more frequently, and unlike in the VN where there's no magnifying glass on Shiki's worst actions, it makes Shiki try to make sense of the horrific things he's done. Can he absolve himself by blaming his bloodlust on his mental state, or does he have to accept that somewhere, deep down, he was in control and willingly wanted to commit those acts. All of this extremely needed introspection is nowhere to be found in Arc's route, and it feels like the manga is not only greatly expanding on the route by adding in story elements from other routes, but fixes all of the garbage writing in the VN. I had a friend jokingly say to me that you have to be between 14 and 19 to understand Tsukihime's genius, and I think they're really onto something. The only way I could see this touching someone's heart is if they were a shitty edgelord teen. Maybe I'm fucking old now, I'm pushing my mid-30s, but like, I forgot just how bad the edgy-ass 2000s were. Nowadays, I think of edgy as Shadow the Hedgehog with a gun, and I chuckle to myself. But Jesus, it really was this bad. But even then, even if I came to this at age 14, 15, 16, and I was no straight-laced sweet little boy in my teens, I still can't imagine myself liking this shit back then. Even if I had the most charitable read possible, that the translation is so bad that the script is not even remotely faithful to the original Japanese, and in fact actively antagonistic to its initial characters, I can't wrap my head around English speakers reading this and walking away a fan. Clannad boggled my mind, and Tsukihime made it feel like child's play. Tsukihime is not the worst game I played this year. It does not earn the stub toe of 2023. But that's only because I didn't finish it. Even with only 25% of it done, however, I feel very confident that we have a slam dunk winner for stub toe of 2024. When we come back from the intermission, we'll take a look at who injured my foot the most this year with the winner of stub toe of the year 2023.